Hi, this is Emily Saliers from Indigo Girls, and you're listening to Rainbow Country.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the persons appearing on the program.
Today on Rainbow Country, Osmel Guerra Maynes, an LGBT advocate, a social justice activist, a proud queer Afro-Latino. He's also the director of organizational development, community, and culture for HQ Health Hub, a health center offering express HIV STI testing, counseling, and social programs. That and more on episode 329, so stay tuned. The Gay Talk Radio right here on Rainbow Country.
Hello, my name is Conchita.
And I'm Barbecue.
And my name is Hardcora. And we are the Beat
Girls. You're listening to
Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Well, hello and welcome to a brand new journey through Rainbow Country. As I like to call it, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And as always, I am your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm producer and host, Mark Tara. By the way, Rainbow Country originates from CIUT-FM in Toronto, and now proudly in syndication on 12 outlets across Canada, from coast to coast to coast. The Yukon, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the east coast of Canada in Newfoundland, Ontario, even down to Buffalo, New York, and online. Well, thanks to you tuning in, streaming, downloading, but ultimately, listening. Together, we continue to build Rainbow Country into a nationally syndicated gay radio show, a #1 LGBT podcast on Podomatic.com's Gay and Lesbian chart, as well as being recognized as Canada's #2 LGBT podcast on Feedspot.com. So today, December 1st, is World AIDS Day. And on this episode, I thought I would spotlight healthcare with a feature on HQ Health Hub, a health center for guys into guys, trans, non-binary, and two-spirit people, offering express HIV STI testing, counseling, and social programming. Osmel Guerra Maynes, who is the Director of Organizational Development, Community, and Culture for HQ Health Hub, joins me to fill us in on all things HQ and more. Plus later on in Hour 1, with the recent Colorado Springs shooting that happened on Saturday, November 19th at the LGBT nightclub Club Q, where 5 individuals were senselessly struck down. A flashback to my 2017 interview with best-selling author Joey Lamar, who talks about her tribute book, Cuarenta y Nueve, a tribute book to the 49 who were lost at the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting in 2016. And in Hour 2, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, voices that we've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house. And on this episode, I'm featuring some soundtrack music, some queer Christian music, and more. All that lies ahead as we start off episode 329 through Rainbow Country. And our first stop is what I like to call the Rainbow Country School for Canadian Gay History. And on today's session, from activist, author, and historian Tim McCaskill, Canada's LGBT community of the 1980s.
If we think of the 1970s as the period where the gay community was trying to get noticed, the 1980s were the time when we actually got noticed and started getting seriously slammed. The cops had never been happy with Trudeau's 1969 decriminalization. If you look at historian Tom Hooper's work, you'll see that arrests of gay men actually increased across the country after decriminalization. Remember, this was way before apps. If you wanted to hook up, baths or bars were the best places to go, so those were the places that police targeted. And there were a series of bath and bar raids in Montreal and Toronto and Edmonton and Ottawa and other cities. The Toronto bath raids of February 5th, 1981 are the most famous. When Toronto's pro-gay mayor John Sewell and the first openly gay candidate for city council, George Hislop, were both defeated in the municipal elections in 1980, the cops figured we were vulnerable and swooped. They smashed into most of the city's gay baths, trashed the places, and arrested almost 300 men on a range of charges. It wasn't just the baths, they were also hassling the bars on concocted liquor license violations, and they were busting individuals in bookstores for porn. Basically, they were trying to shut down the gay village and recriminalize homosexuality. But that night when they hit the baths, they bit off more than they could chew. In Toronto, for the first time, the activists and the small business people and the normally non-political bar and bath patrons all came together in a series of massive demonstrations. We raised money to fight the charges in court and won. We made common cause with Black and South Asian communities who are also experiencing police brutality and harassment, and we demanded community control of the police. We called for changes to the criminal code to get rid of antiquated laws that still criminalized sex. That new community unity also laid the foundation for dealing with the next crisis that was about to affect us all, the AIDS epidemic. This is Tim McCaskill, a gay liberation dinosaur from another planet and author of Queer Progress.
Hi everybody, this is Gino Vanelli. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Up next, a feature on HQ Health Hub. Osmel Guerra Maynes.
Yes.
I hope I'm not butchering your name.
No, girl, it's okay.
Hi, how are you?
Not bad, how are you?
I am well. I'm better now that I am talking to you to talk to the LGBT community and beyond about HQ Health Hub. Let's start at ground zero. Yes. What is HQ Health Hub? What is this all about?
So HQ Health Hub, or we also go by HQ Toronto, is integrated person-centered holistic healthcare clinic. So it's a center for cis guys into guys, trans and non-binary folks to come in and have STI and HIV testing, express testing, and also features mental health programming and mental health services, and also social health programming.
Okay, you just mentioned cis guys, men having sex with men. A lot of us would say, like, you know, the gay men or the gay community, that sort of thing. Talk to me about the language that you are using in 2022 when it comes to the LGBT community and who you're reaching out to. Yes, definitely. So we say cis guys into guys is because in many cases there are folks who either for whatever reason don't want to use the idea of being labeled. And that being said, we also have folks who are straight but occasionally have sex with men. But for them they are straight men. And also, you know, we have folks who are gay, folks who are queer. And in many cases, what we do, we are providing these services for those folks within our communities. So, as you stated, the new age is not only just being, you know, because you're having sex with men, it means you're completely gay, but at the same time, it's opening the scope of providing the conversation around bisexuality, men who are bisexual, men who are just straight, but occasionally have sex with men. Yeah. So the HQ Health Hub is the first clinic to combine mental health, sexual health, social health, all in one center for the LGBT community, the queer community. Are there other organizations like this, like the HQ Health Hub across Canada?
So there's other organizations that are a bit similar but not precise. For instance, HQ is the first of its kind in Canada, but there are other organizations that do somewhat of the same work. I would say so. HIM, Health Initiative for Men, which is located in Vancouver. I'm not too sure any other places within Canada, but I do know Dean Street Clinic in the UK. In London. So right now, HQ in itself is the first of its kind within the Canadian context.
So being the first of its kind, are you guys looking to use this as a model? Are you looking to hopefully expand this concept and idea to other cities across Canada?
Well, currently we are focused on in Toronto. We never know what the future may lie or what the future may hold. But for now, we're definitely centered right here in downtown Toronto, where we do provide services for folks within the GTH areas. But also, if folks are coming in from various areas of the world who are coming into HQ, we also have ways of how we can provide services to them. In many cases, folks are coming through here. Are you either using the OHIP card, or even if you're coming from BC or any other part of the provinces, you're able to use that here at HQ. For folks who are newcomers to Canada or refugees or folks who are just visiting but may not have an OHIP card or those type of healthcare, we do provide something that is known as the HQ service card, which allows you to provide services to the folks in terms of express testing while they're here, or while they're waiting for their OHIP cards.
So in Toronto, there's a hassle-free clinic.
Yes, which is actually one of our collaborators.
Okay, and there it's anonymous testing. You just go, you show up, and you wait to be seen by a doctor for, HIV testing, sexual testing, health testing, all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. Is HQ doing the same sort of thing? Is this anonymous testing at all? How is this working? When someone does show up?
Yeah. And so just off the bat, so HQ, we don't do anonymous testing here. What we want to ensure is that folks are coming in and getting sexual health in terms of getting their sexual health testing and their mental health services. And the reason why we want to make that happen is we want to make sure that it's just like if you're going to buy groceries, like you're going to buy groceries as normal as that is coming in and having yourself a STI or HIV test. And so in many cases, when folks are coming into HQ, that is why we're asking for OHIP card. We don't do anonymous testing, but if there are folks who are coming into the space and they're like, hey, I'm not comfortable in doing that, but I do want to have anonymous testing, we then provide them the service or referral to hassle-free. So we're saying, hey, you know what, we don't offer that here, but hassle-free definitely provides that.
Are you looking to position HQ in regards to a replacement for a family doctor of sorts, or in conjunction with a family doctor?
So in many cases, it's a conjunction with family doctors. Like so we don't do primary care here at HQ. So when folks are coming in here, some folks may not have a family doctor, but at the same time, if folks do have a family doctor, we ask them, hey, would you like to share the information for today with your family doctors? And they can say either yes or no to that. But at the same time, we want to make sure that folks, the most important things is that people are getting tested. People are coming in a judgment-free space where I can go through the steps in terms of self-swabbing. I'm going through the steps in terms of getting my information. I'm going through the steps in even having a bit of consultation with either one of our nurses or one of our physicians here. And at the end of it all, because we have an on-site laboratory, folks are able to receive the results in 24 hours via their cell phones as a text or via email as an email message. Mm-hmm. I said a lot in that one. I'm sorry.
That's what you're here for, to give us a lot of information.
I know, I'm trying to get you that info. But one thing I want to make sure folks are understanding is that we're providing those services for cis guys, into guys, trans and non-binary folks. Because in many cases, folks are going to say, well, I'm coming in, I'm a straight man. Like, if you are a straight man and through the demographics that we provide you states that you're a straight man, but you're having sex with men, then we definitely will be seeing you here at HQ.
So you are the Director of Organizational Development, Community, and Culture for
Yes, I am.
HQ Health Hub. Talk to me about what that all entails.
So it entails community access. So through me, as I'm able to meet folks where they are at, ensure that folks are coming into the space, but also having those collaborations with various organizations and ensuring that those folks are also coming into the space and having their programmings in the space. Currently, we have close to 10 collaborators with us, such as Black Cap, ACAS, ASAP, CSSP, Two-Spirit of folks, and they're able to have their programming here at HQ. But not only that, they're able to have their programming here at HQ, but they're able to run testing nights. In many cases, as we can see, as me, I'm from the Black community, and a lot of times the Black community always feels that this is a space where, I'm going to go to testing, but I'm kind of weirded out because I may feel it's only focused to white cisgendered, gay men. But what we've done is we've created a space where everyone can feel that they're at home. So you can come to HQ, you can see folks who look like you within the staff that works here. But not only that, but you can actually come to one of the testing nights that, Black Cap may be running a Black Cap testing night where you can come in, seeing other folks who you've known and actually have, going through the essence of having an STBBI or HIV express testing. And the same thing goes for someone who may be from the Asian community or someone who may be from the Two-Spirit community, coming in and seeing those longtime organizations that have been working for you within this space. And so that's why we want to ensure that folks understand that, that HQ is not only a space where, you're only getting STBBI or HIV testing or mental health services, but you're getting social health programming that allows you to come in, enjoy yourself, meet other folks, network, and understand each other, especially in terms of what you're going through. So that's me in a nutshell. So I provide a social programming within the space. I provide a sense of home here at HQ. But not only that, but I oversee the HQ Art Council, Advisory Council. And with that is where we have local queer artists from throughout Toronto that actually can come in and provide their artwork within the spaces here. That advisory council is made up of folks from various parts of the queer community who are able to see themselves and provide those art pieces onto the wall. So to make HQ more of a community space, we ensure that our walls are filled with beautiful local queer art.
And not look so sterile.
Yes, exactly.
So speaking of outreach, I know that a lot of places like bars and bathhouses will have, at least in bathhouses, I know for sure will have like anonymous testing, that sort of thing with, organizations like ACT or PWA.
Right.
Is HQ doing any sort of outreach in those areas as well?
So we're not doing outreaches in those areas. I think for us, as HQ, we see it as folks know exactly who we are by now. And if not, we want to make sure that folks are feeling comfortable to come to us, by advertising, whether we're advertising on various, apps or whatnot, or advertising on our social media. We want to make sure that folks already know. And I think for us, we want to target the folks who are not always able to come out and get tested, right? We want to get those folks who are probably in the suburbs living, as a closeted gay man or a person who is straight but is having, queer sexual encounters. We want to target those folks to come into this space because it's rather simple for us to say, this is who we are. And a lot of folks from our communities will come out and use our services, which they are. But we want to make sure that we are getting to those areas where the usual person who may not be fully fledged into our communities are actually using the space.
And on that note, we will return after this Rainbow Country update.
Hi, everyone. This is Mark Tewksbury, Olympic champion, leader, humanitarian. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
So, Rainbow Country airs on independent radio outlets, streaming services, as well as on the NCRA network, the National Campus and Community Radio Association. What do all of these outlets have in common? Well, they are all listener supported to help keep the lights on and the airwaves broadcasting coast to coast to coast. Here are the outlets that carry Rainbow Country. CJUC-FM, The Juice, in Whitehorse, Yukon. CJLY-FM in Nelson, BC. CFUR-FM in Prince George, BC. CFCR-FM in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. CKUW-FM in Winnipeg, Manitoba. CIUT-FM in Toronto, Ontario, the home of Rainbow Country. CKCU-FM in Ottawa, Ontario. Canoe FM in Halliburton, Ontario's cottage country. CFRC-FM in Kingston, Ontario. CFRU-FM in Guelph, Ontario. CHMR-FM in St. John's, Newfoundland. And Bombshell Radio, a 24/7 streaming outlet. So if you are able to, please consider making a donation to this very outlet you are tuned to. If you're listening to the edited podcast version, please consider making a contribution to an outlet that does carry Rainbow Country. And by the way, the full list of outlets that carry Rainbow Country can be found at marktara.com. Just hit the syndication banner. After all, where else but on Rainbow Country will you find episodes featuring topics like the state of trans healthcare in Canada, being gay and being black, out LGBT athletes, and not to mention playing music from queer artists from around the world. Rainbow Country, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And by the way, if you do make a donation, if you do make a contribution, please let me know. Hit me up on my socials at Mark Tara, or send me a personal email, mark@marktara.com. That way I can give you the recognition you deserve for letting your support be known nationally.
Hi, my name is Joanne Vanicola, and I'm an actor and a writer, and I was first on Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on discussing the massacre at Pulse Club in Orlando. I realized how important it was for our community to have a radio station, specifically for our issues, to talk about people in the LGBTQ community and to provide an outlet for our stories, to discuss our politics, culture, and give voice to the issues that matter to us, and of course our artists and the things that we do globally, and talk about culture. And without people like Mark Tara providing a space for this with a radio show like this, then we wouldn't have that voice. So support, tune in. Thank you.
I'm Brian Bradley, author of Outrageous Misfits, female impersonator Craig Russell and his wife, Lori Russellidi. You are listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
So, headquarters, happy Queen,
Yeah.
highly qualified, here, and queer. These are just some of the interpretations that HQ can stand for.
Yes.
But here's the question for yourself. How did you get involved with HQ Health Hub?
Oh, wow. So for me, in the past, I used to be the executive director of Capital Pride, which is the Pride organization that oversees the National Capital Region, which includes
Ottawa Pride.
Ottawa and Gatineau. And so for me, it was really important that I've been an advocate of HIV and AIDS for many, many years. And so I definitely wanted to get involved. I've also, my partner is also, and it's okay, I'm in a serodiscordant relationship. And so in many cases, I want to ensure that, one, the end of a stigma. And two, I've always worked even with trying to ensure that queer men were able to give blood through Canadian Blood Services and HEMA Quebec, and so that's always been my fight. And so I wanted to make sure that eventually that where I was would lead me to a more intricate fight in terms of providing services and knowledge to folks to destroy the stigma of what HIV is. And so in many cases, I just saw the posting for this particular position, which when I saw it, I'm like, well, that's me. It's almost like it just came out of, like, this is for you. This is what you always wanted to do. And just reading about the organization, of what the organization was the intention of the organization. This is an organization that has been in the woodwork for over 10 years. And so this organization is folks, various HIV advocates coming together and creating a space where they can, where they can have folks coming in, no judgment free. They can actually come and do self-swabbing and then just get the results as soon as possible. And so because of that, like I guess I was caught. And here I am.
And how long have you been with HQ?
Girl, honestly, yesterday was a year that I made my 1 year anniversary at HQ.
And HQ Health Hub, how long has this organization, this facility been around?
So we officially opened on July 26th, 2022. But as I said before, this has been a conversation piece that has been on the mantle. I wouldn't say on the mantle, but it has been growing and being fruitful each and every year. So folks came together back in 2013 and decided, hey, this is what the future holds for a place where folks are able to come in, being, provided services, judgment-free services, both in sexual health, mental health, and social programming. And with that, HQ came about.
You just touched on this just now in regards to, gay men, bi men giving blood, donating blood. Before there was a ban on that.
Yes, a blood ban.
And that recently got lifted, I believe.
They're still on the, I guess the conversation is still happening. And so far from what I've seen, it seems like it's going in a good conversation, a good way. And so let's see if it keeps running in that direction.
Okay. So let's get to know Osmel a little bit more personally. You have
my God.
Girl, relax. This ain't Oprah.
I know, right?
Although, okay, so you have a Caribbean background, an Afro-Latino background, I believe.
Yes, I do. I'm from the Dominican Republic.
You were born in the Dominican Republic?
Yes, I was.
And I believe you have a twin brother.
I do. Girl, how did you find all this information, though?
You are an activist and an advocate. How did you end up on this path that you are on? Being an advocate, being an activist. How did this all come about for you?
Oh my God, it's not I think. I know where it came about. When I was a child, I always knew I was different from my brother, my twin brother. And in many cases, I went through school almost using him as a shield, because for me, it's like, being in my country, you cannot be gay, you cannot be queer, you can't be anything like that. You can get persecuted, death, jailed, the works. So for me, I always had to use my brother as a shield, because when I saw my brother was the epitome of what it's supposed to be as a straight Black man. And so for me, that's what I needed to do. And in many cases, I felt that, well, since people just assume they're twins, so that means they have to be the same in every regard. But I knew for myself, like I was different. I knew for myself that I wanted to ensure that I move out of where I was and get to a space where I can actually be myself. And this is something that I have fought for many, many years, because in many cases, it's like, coming from a Latin and Black community background, where for us, my parents used to say that's not a part of our culture. That's a culture made by Western ideologies or white men. That has nothing to do with you folks or us. And so in many cases, I was always torn, because I'm like, I'm hearing this, but at the same time, this is how I'm feeling. And so eventually I came to Canada. I went to Carleton University. And even while at university at Carleton, I also continued keeping that barrier up, because it's like, okay, well, I can't do this. I have to make my family proud of me. And these are the things a lot of young folks, international students, especially, who are, queer-minded, who are coming into a new culture, going to university and remembering that, hey, I have to make my family proud. That's the epitome or the epitome of what we have to do as children from families who, you may be the first of your kind going to university. And so you want to make your family proud. And so in many cases, once I got into university, I started learning more about myself. I realized, hey, I have these feelings, and these feelings, I have to go through them. I ended up going to therapy because in many times, just like some folks, I was going through some suicidal thoughts, because I'm just like, well, I'm not correct. I'm not right. I'm not supposed to be part of this world, because I'm going to make my family upset and so forth. Then I started doing therapy. Therapy is something that, and again, going back to mental health is so important, especially for folks from racialized communities, because for us, we always see as mental health or counseling as a taboo. But in itself, it's not. It's something that actually reassures you and reassures you that you are not wrong, or helps you and supports you in the things that you definitely need. And here at HQ, we have that step, a step system where the folks here actually provide you with that information, provide you with the necessary needs that, to help you flourish. And so for me, mental health counseling or speaking to a therapist actually helped out and allowed me to come out to my family. And honestly, coming out of my family, the first person I came out to was my brother. He was a huge support for me coming out. And the other persons that I felt that I needed to come out to was my parents. And though my mom was, a little up and down with it, eventually, she kind of understood. One person I was mostly afraid of was my dad, how he would have seen this. And he actually was very, he was very supportive, which I didn't think, to the point that it led me into advocacy, LGBTQ2S+ advocacy, where when I go to different places and make speeches, my dad actually comes out and listens to the speeches and shows of like a lot of support. And so in many cases, I want to make sure, even when I got into working at Capital Pride, I wanted to make sure that I created a space where a lot of folks, especially racialized folks, are able to come who are going through the same motions that I have been going through since I was young in university and in college and in high school and in elementary, right? Giving them the tools that is necessary for them to actually participate and learn about themselves. But at the same time, learning about what is great, what is mental health and how to take care of it. Learning that about your sexual health in terms of getting tested, because in many cases, HIV has run rampant in a lot of our communities. And so ensuring that they have that knowledge. And so at the end of the day, I guess it comes back to where I'm working, right? I think that everything or all the steps were laid in front of me to get back to where I am here, whereas that I am still providing a space but not only me, but folks who have been in the conversation about HQ for so many years have provided a space for folks to come in, feel that they're accepted, feel that they're in a judgment-free zone, and they're able to have, some type of assurance. And even if you come out with a, not so great result, we have folks here who are able to help you get through that as well. And so I think that's what we definitely needed here. And that's how my crisscross in all directions led me back to where I am. I'm happily married. I won't say happily, but I mean, now and again you get into your little scuffles. But what I'm saying though is that it gave me, going through all the facing of life allowed me to do something I always wanted to, and that was get married to the person I want to be married to. Because in many cases, you always have that, you have to marry a woman, or you have to marry this. And the same goes for a person who's maybe, who's identifies as a lesbian. You may have to marry a man. But now it's like, I was able to marry the person who I wanted to marry. And whether or not, I reached to a point in life that I just don't care what people think of me. Oh my God, he's gay. Oh my God, can you believe that? And I think that's the reassurance that you and your own family has to come to the point where you just don't care. Like, as long as people are living their life, not hurting anyone, and just being and living their truth, and I think nothing can go wrong. Like, I like to tell people, come in, the water's fine.
How did you and your husband or your partner, however you term it, how did you guys...
I use husband because apparently that makes people get upset.
Okay, I know some people don't want to use that term, and I'm like, whatever.
I think for me, I use the word husband because in many cases it's like I'm very grand in who I am, right? Like, for me it's like partner. Yeah, you can say partner, but I want to say husband because it's like, it's something I yearned for so many years, I think, for me, because I knew that that's what I wanted. And so now that I have it, it's like, I even asked my husband, like, you okay if I call you husband? He's like, sure. And I'm like, okay.
So growing up...
I'm sorry, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. But growing up, especially in the Dominican Republic...
And Antigua and Barbuda, I should throw that in as well. I also went to school in Antigua and Barbuda.
And growing up in the Caribbean...
Yes.
Growing up in the Caribbean, as a young child, knowing this about yourself, maybe not having the words that, you're gay or what have you, but having these feelings, did you think you'd be able to get married one day?
Honestly, to tell the truth, Mark, no.
And that's
it
the
was
reality.
Always a dream. It was always a fantasy. And it's a fantasy I always kind of took with me many, many days. Like I would sit there and I would wonder, you would see some stuff on TV, right? Like whether, you're seeing like, oh, these men are like, I remember watching, we tend to watch TLC a lot down there, but TLC in Spanish. But then they would also show cases like, men getting married, but like people would see that and make fun of it and be like, oh, this is American propaganda or stuff like that. But for me, I saw like, that's the only way that, that was the only way I could see this type of shows, right? I remember late at night going on, I think it was HBO Max, or, it wasn't HBO Max at that time, but it was just HBO or Cinemax or something like that, watching Queer as Folk. And like, I just thought that was so magical until I ended up watching Noah's Ark. So that's the black version.
Okay.
And so I started watching that. And so I put Queer Folks to the side because I was like, that's something that I wanted. I was romanticizing that. But when I saw this show called Noah's Ark, it was about a black guy and he's, around black culture. And that is what hooked me as well. Because I was just like, I want that. The idea that you can have a black boyfriend, the idea that, or a boyfriend, the idea that you can have these wonderful group of friends, and the idea that you can create families who are not blood related to you by blood, but are your own chosen families. And for me, that was like everything. And so when I saw that, I had that in my mind. And in many cases, I always, dreamt that. And then when I finally came to Canada, though it took a couple of years, it came to fruition.
You were the executive director for Ottawa Pride, Capital Pride. How did that come to you? How did you end up becoming the executive director?
So I was in Vancouver at the time. I was at this other organization, which I was the ED, and then I decided that I wanted to. I missed Toronto, and the reason being is like I didn't have a lot of family. In Vancouver, it was just me and my husband. And then so I'm from the Dominican Republic. My husband's from Cuba, and so for us, we would always have to fly through Toronto, which is 4 hours, and then family is everything to us. And so my twin brother just had his son, and so the way I see it, yes, it's his son, but it's my son. So I really wanted to be part of his life or part of that family, because I wanted to make sure that that I'm there, because at the end of the day, I don't have family all the way out in West. And so I kind of thought about it. And then the opportunity arose. It came around November of 2019, somewhere around there. Yeah, 2019. And then I saw it and I decided to go for it. Like in many cases, I have spoken in various organizations. And so a lot of folks kind of knew who I was. But at the same time, I never really relied on that to be as a means of getting a job or something like that. And so I did everything as normal, the tests, everything. I always like to tell people when you're an ED, you have to juggle, you have to put on many hats. So because of many hats, you kind of have to know the job. And so before I knew it, I was whisked away back to Ottawa. And had to work extra hard because the pandemic. So creating a virtual pride that ensures that it focuses on a lot of programming for a lot of folks within our communities, because I wanted to make sure everyone who came through or who have experienced my version of pride in Ottawa received the things that they needed for themselves. And so a lot of it was focused on a lot of drag, a lot of conversations around HIV, a lot of conversations around queerness, a lot of conversations around trans and health systems in Canada in terms of what barriers trans folks had to face. And so I wanted to make sure that the programming that I put forward was programming that has allowed folks to feel that they're part of it and know that this touched them in some way. And I guess with that's the reason why I wanted to come to HQ as well and provide that type of programming here. You see how I did that? I just kind of went around and come back to HQ.
You've got it down, and I'm going to do the same thing. I just have a couple moments with you left, and my last question for you, Osmel, is simply this: when the health aspect aside, when someone does come to HQ Health Hub, how would you like them to feel when they come into this organization, this health organization, this facility? So how do you hope they come in, and how do you hope they feel when they do come in?
We want folks, and I want to say we, because we want to make sure that we are all in the same boat together in terms of providing this service. We want folks to see HQ as a home. We want them to come in and just feel that, hey, they can be in here. You can come in, you can talk, you can bring your friends, you can have a full-on conversation, get the services that you need, and then, go home. Right now we have, I'm happy to say we have this one young gentleman from the Filipino community. He comes in. The first time he came here, he came through ACT, in terms of the ACT youth program that they have there. And he came and he visited, and he was really gobsmacked of the space. And the reason why I said that is because he created a really good friendship with one of our staff persons who is also has a Filipino background. And ever since that conversation and that idea of what it is, of what HQ is, and also knowing that someone is there who's speaking your own language and allowing you to be I can use my own language here, right? And so now that young guy brings more people from his community, from his community here to get tested. And that's the thing that we want. We want folks to see themselves in the staff that is here. We want folks to understand that we created a home base for you. Like, again, the tutorial videos that are at HQ are in various languages. So far, the tutorial videos that we have, when you go into the express testing room, are in 6 languages. I'm happy to say one of them is the Nationale, simplified Chinese, English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. While our kiosk have other various languages in Arabic and Urdu and Tamil. And so in many cases, we want to make sure that when you come here, you're able to see people who looks like you and speaks in your own language and makes you feel at home.
Well said, well said. Osmel, I have to say thank you so much for your time. Well said, well done, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
HQ Health Hub is located in the heart of downtown Toronto, 790 Bay Street, Suite 820. For more information, simply visit hqtoronto.ca.
Hi, I'm Keegan Hurst, former professional rugby player, coach, raving homosexual, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
With the recent Colorado Springs shooting, I thought I would give a special flashback to an interview that I did with best-selling author Joey Lamar. In 2016, 49 individuals were killed at the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting. Up next, best-selling author Joey Lamar talks about her 2017 tribute book, 49. 49. And the book was basically put together by Joey Lamar, who's joining me now. Joey Lamar, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about how you put this book, you brokered this book. Talk to me about that aspect.
Well, after the tragedy in Orlando, the Pulse tragedy, where we lost 49 victims, my original thought was to hunker down and write 49 poems to be able to relieve myself of everything that I was feeling.
Okay.
It affected everything that I am. I lived in Orlando for 10 years, so I was part of that community. I partied at Pulse.
So you've actually been to that nightclub?
Oh, many times.
Really?
Many, many times.
Okay.
It was my club of choice. I took my wife there on one of our first dates. I'm Puerto Rican, and the majority of the people killed were Puerto Rican because it was Latin night. And then I lost a friend amongst the 49 victims.
Really? So this hits home.
So it hit home on every level.
Right.
And so I thought to be able to kind of self-therapy, I'll write a book. I'll write poems for every single one of the victims.
Right.
But when I started it, I realized it's going to drain me completely, and it's only going to be me, and I'm not the full LGBT community.
Right.
I'm just L. So I reached out. I'm surrounded by so much talent here in Toronto. My friends are they're amazing, right? They're writers, and they're poets, and they're artists, and they're photographers, and they're singers, and it runs the gamut. And so I thought I'll just put a little thought out there and see how they respond, and if they respond well, then we can move forward with it. And it was overwhelming.
Right.
I had much more than 49 people. I wanted to keep it to 49 artists for 49 victims.
Right.
But the response was overwhelming. They're not just talented people here in the community. They are also very loving people. And it showed. They responded. Now, wrangling them for all of the contributions and everything, that's difficult. That's my job, but they are amazing with what they've contributed to the book. It's going to be magical.
So the cover for the book has
The cover itself has 49 candles, but we do include the pictures inside the book.
Okay.
Not on the cover.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So how did you have to contact the families? How did that come about?
The publishers did that.
Okay. And who's the publisher for this?
We have two publishers. We have Dreams Publishing, who has been the power behind my novels and memoirs.
Okay.
And then they decided, since we have all of these artists coming out of Toronto, we should have a Toronto publishing company behind us as well, because Dreams is out of New York. And so they picked up Tellwell Talent as a cooperative force.
Okay.
And Tellwell Talent is usually for self-publishing, but together both publishing companies are pouring more than $15,000 into doing this for the victims.
Right.
And all of the proceeds do not go to the publisher or any one of us. They actually go to two very important charities in the States that we hope will prevent this from happening again.
Right. And what charities are they, do you know?
The first one is Pride School Atlanta, which is an LGBTQ+++ school in Atlanta, the first of its kind.
Okay.
Its headmaster and the person who runs it and the founder is a transgender male who's just amazing. He was one of the first schools to put my books in their library and curriculum.
Real Mambo Lips and Salsa Hips?
Not Salsa Hips, because it's not for children, but
Mambo Lips?
Mambo Lips, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congrats on that.
Yeah. So, and I think what they do is so important. They support children from our community at a very young age and put them all the way through to high school.
Okay.
And so they send out kids from our community that are confident, that know who they are, that are authentic, and they're protected in this school environment too. There's no bullying, and just think about how healthy that is, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of, I think, hate is fear-based, and you know, what happened in Orlando was definitely a hate crime. And I want to give back to the community through these children so that they come into the world not fearing the world and the hate and what they're going to face. They've gone through their schooling being very supported and confident and intelligent kids now, right?
Now, you're from America. You
I
live
am.
there. And you were just saying that you lived in Orlando. You've been to the Pulse nightclub. Did you ever foresee anything like this happening?
No.
In Orlando?
No. And Pulse, the club itself, is a very welcoming space.
Okay.
It wasn't just an LGBT club. A lot of straight people go to that club. Just, you know, people who are comfortable, who are allies.
Right.
A lot of Latinos go. I mean, it's multicultural. It's a big, happy space, and it hit hard because of that. That's another reason that I needed to do something.
Right.
Because I've been there and I know what a jovial place it is.
Right.
What a healthy place it is to
Right.
party.
Right.
Like many of the clubs here in Toronto.
Just something random.
Yeah. These people wouldn't
Wow.
hurt a fly, right?
Wow.
No, you know, here's another thing people should really realize. Florida is a gun state, and you can carry a gun. Not one person, there were 49 victims and 53 injured survivors. Not one of those people was carrying a gun or retaliated. They had to wait for the police. That says a lot. You have over 100 people in a club not thinking about anything but being authentic and having a good time. And they had they had the ability to carry guns. It's a gun state.
Right.
But that's not their style. We're people of love.
Right. So, 49, what was your favorite aspect of putting this project together?
I think reading some of the works of the contributors, they're amazing. They're all depictions of love and light and kindness. And some of them are written about their own grief with the situation.
Right.
But they're not morose. They're not dark. They're filled with hope, too. And something that was very sad has been the catalyst for people in this community to rise And it's evident in those writings, in those pictures, in the artwork that some of the artists themselves contributed. These are people that are so used to coming out of the ashes that the book reflects that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was your favorite aspect.
That's my favorite aspect.
What was the hardest aspect?
It's still hard to deal with. It's only a year old. Mm-hmm. And so as I work with the publishers, who, by the way, every time they read something and they call me and they're putting something together, they cry. So, and I was saying it outside, I always have to tell them, you cannot call me and cry. This will be too difficult for us to put together. So I think because it's still fresh, because I still know the fear that because I visited that club and I partied in that club, I knew the exits. Okay. I knew how dark and scary it would be if something like that happened. And I still, to this day, and I'm sure it's some little form of PTSD, imagine the fear. And everybody knows they're going to die. That's a given, right? The minute we're born, we're dying.
Right.
But nobody wants to go in that kind of fear.
Right.
Nobody wants to go in that kind of fear. That's horrific, right? And it was long. It was drawn out. It was hours and hours.
Right.
You know, people hid. My friend who passed away was there with her sons. Both of her sons were gay. And she passed away because she told her son to put her body on top of his.
Wow.
And this is documented. He's been interviewed. And, you know, I mean, you have to think about how horrible that is. She was shot and killed. He was injured. The bullets came through her. But he didn't pass away. So she protected him, you know, to her death, like any mother would, literally. You know?
Wow.
Those things kind of haunt me. So that's still sad. But I feel really confident about what we're doing. I think it's a great homage and tribute to the people. And I hope that in perpetuity, it'll give to the two charities that we're giving all the proceeds to, and, you know, leave a legacy for everybody who's contributed.
Joey Lamar, thanks for being on the show. 49.
You say that very well.
Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is Mark Tewksbury, Olympic champion, leader, humanitarian. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
And just like that, this little gay journey through Rainbow Country has come to an end. For the full 2-hour episode, simply head over to marktara.com, where everything is connected, and hit the archives banner. To keep up to date with the show, check out my socials at Mark Tara. The podcast is available on all major platforms, including audible.com and iHeartRadio. And finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, despite all the craziness happening in the world these days, know this: we are living in days of making dreams come true. So believe in yourself, and the world will believe in you.
Hi, this is Police Constable Danielle Botno, also known as LGBT Cop, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.